Good morning and welcome. You are proof that Petra Müller is right a lot of times, but not every time. She told us that if we start anything at 9:30 in Cologne, it would be empty because everybody was still asleep. Thank you so much for proving her wrong and being here for the early morning session. I don't want to talk that much because you have a lot of very exciting guests here talking about the European Showrunner system as part of the think tank that's part of Seriesmania of Berlinale. So we're very, very happy to be part of that illustrious circle or ring that's going through Europe. But for the introduction, I give over to Nadia Radojevic.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That was perfect.
Here it is.
Thank you, Kaat. Yeah, good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to welcome you here to the European Showrunner Think Tank session at the Seriencamp in Cologne. We are super excited to be here in our hometown. As Kaat said, I'm Nadia Radojevic. I'm the Chief Executive Director of the IFS, the International Film School in Cologne. And last year we initiated the European Showrunner Program, which is funded by Creative Europe Media, program of the European Union, funded by our local fund, the Film and Medienstiftung NRW, and has industry partners such as Netflix, and as Gerhard said, we are also associated with Seriesmania, with the Gothenburg Festival, and with Seriencamp here, which is really super. So what is this program about? It actually has three pillars. One is a training program aiming at experienced series writers who want to become showrunners, and the second pillar is a pan-European network of showrunners, and the third pillar is what you're just experiencing right now, a series of industry events where we like to discuss the showrunner model in Europe. And today's topic is sort of directing in the showrunner model, very exciting. We have gathered a fantastic panel, and I'm handing right over to the moderator of this session. He's a writer and showrunner from Switzerland, and he's also an alumnus of the European Showrunner Program of last year. So over to you, Adrian Spring. Thank you.
Dankeschön. Well, good morning from my side as well. Yes, we're talking about showrunning in the next 40 minutes, as I see on this monitor. But we're not talking about it from the perspective of the people who run the show. We're talking about it from the director's perspective. And we have gathered here 4 directors from all over Europe, and I'm going to introduce them real quick. We have Nathalie Basteens and Kaat Beels from Belgium. And they worked on shows like, or directed shows like Hotel Beau Séjour or The Clan, and maybe you know The Clan from last year when Apple TV Plus released a remake of it called Bad Sisters. And we have Annetta Laufen from the UK. And she directed the 2022's New Year's special of Doctor Who from the BBC. And also works as a director on shows for HBO and Channel 4 in co-production. And we have from Germany, and from Cologne actually, Lutz Heineking, who's also worked as a director in the Showrunner Model on shows like Drinnen or very recently Wir sind die Mayas. And we're really focusing here on this panel and when we're talking about directing in this model, on the showrunner model, how we know it from the US and more recently in Europe, where writers are the showrunner who lead the creative vision. So you all worked on shows where it was like that, and this goes to all of you. How would you describe or define the role of the director in this showrunner model? Let's kick off with Annetta.
Is it on? Yes. So from my experience, having worked on American and British shows, it's that the director is there to help the vision of the showrunner. So that means that you will have meetings, ideally, with the showrunner who will tell you how they see the show, and then as a director you will try and create that vision for them. And in the edit, so you will shoot it, and then in the edit you will put together your director's cut, but then at the end of the day it is the showrunner who will have the final say on everything.
How do you see that, or define it, Lutz?
Yeah, in this model, pretty much like Annette said, I have nothing to add.
Yes, I think we work together with the writer, and sometimes, yeah, it was always a female, and she works together with us, and we decided together. So I think, yeah, we had like a good.
The showrunners we worked with before, it was not so trendy to be showrunners, so there was just a writer. And when they were writers, it was like the director's vision who was the most important, and they were like just there to see if the story was well told. But the other, the director had like the vision, the style, and those two writers became showrunners, but the way we worked did not change so much. So maybe that's because we used to work with them when they were writers, and they went more like on the back front, and then they became showrunners, but they respected us, and the method of working stayed a bit the same. So we don't have the same experience as you guys have, where the director has to fill in the vision of the showrunner. That was different for us.
It's also, I do have something to add now. It also has a lot to do with where the showrunner comes from. At least in Germany, not all of them have the same background, and they have the same knowledge, and they have the same way of approaching a shoot or working with a director. Mostly it's eye height, but. I mean, I've worked with people who have never directed anything. So, end of the day, they give it into my hand, and on the other hand, they also in editing we discuss. We don't. There's no Caesar sitting behind me, but as I said, it really comes from which experience has the show running person.
I think there's also both, I think, in Britain and in America, there's a new sort of wave that's happening of showrunners being novelists. So they actually are authors of books, and the books have sold really well. And so broadcasters feel that they would have a big audience, and so they bring in these novelists to be showrunners, and they've never been on a show before, they've never done production before, and so a lot of problems and obstacles will stem from the fact that these showrunners are put into positions that they're actually not experienced to do, and that's proving to be quite problematic.
We will get into that in a few minutes. What would be interesting to know is, Annette, right at the beginning, when you were coming on board on a show, how do you even know that you are the right director for a show? Like on Doctor Who, how did you know, okay, why should I do that?
Because it's Doctor Who.
It is Doctor Who, and everyone knows Doctor Who.
So first of all, I mean, Doctor Who, particularly in Britain, is massive. It's an institution, and it has a status. So any director being attached to that show is going to have something good come out of it. Going on to a show like that, because it is such an established show, it already has a formula that is very ingrained. So you're already coming into a system that has been going for a very long time. So for me, it was watching the last few seasons of the show to understand the showrunner, because I knew what Doctor Who was, but I needed to understand, well, what was the vision of this showrunner for this particular Doctor, and that's how I sort of approached. I always knew that I was coming in to direct someone else's vision because Doctor Who is so established. I think if it had been a new show, like we'll talk about when I went on to the next show, then it's different, because you are then being part of a collaboration to set up something very new. And so you're setting up a language, you're setting up a vision, and I think you then approach it very differently.
Yeah. How was it with you guys? Because the shows, the Clan and Beau Séjour, you were there from the beginning.
Yeah, I think it's so important for us to direct from the first episode, so we can establish together with the writer how it's going to look, how the cast is going to be. I think that's for us important.
Yeah, and the Clan and the first season of Beau Séjour was without showrunner. So, like, we developed the vision, we created the world, always in dialogue with the writer. And then Sanne became a showrunner on the second season. But it was the way of working was not changed because there was trust already. So I think it's very important for our experience when we work with the showrunner that there is a lot of trust and that they know our work and we know their work. So it's never about this is my vision and you have to do this or that. It's like, I think it's best for the show. It's without the ego. You have to be without egos. And when you trust the showrunner and they trust the directors, I think it's going to work really well. But for me, it would be very difficult to be in a system where I just have to shoot shots and then give it over to the showrunner and they say, bye-bye, see you on the next one. So that's a different way of working.
Yeah, we are from stage one to the finishing of the editing. We are there, so it's a little bit our call.
And you said it didn't change from the first season of Beau Séjour to the second, not at all. So it didn't make a difference for her to be the showrunner.
Sanne was more involved in the editing because there were on the second season some problems with the writing which we had to fix in the editing room, and she was more experienced and she did the showrunners, so she was more involved in the editing. But in the pre-production it was more or less the same. Like when we did casting, she saw the casting tapes. It was not like so different than when she was just a writer. So it was always in a discussion.
Yeah, and before we going into the really working relationship of showrunner and director, when you come aboard and you touch upon it, you need to be kind of introduced to the vision, getting aligned with the vision, getting in sync with the showrunner. How did that happen, Lutz, on the last show you did with Wir sind die Mayas?
Well, basically not at all. But this was depending to time problems we had. So end of the day, we all found out the vision of the showrunner while doing it, and there was no clear a border who does costume, and we had a big mask. It's like basically 11 actors playing a whole huge family, so they had, look different every. It's a sketch show anyway, and so while we did that, we really defined the style along doing it, time problem-wise. Usually, I would say that the vision should be very clarified, being given. I know when I showrun, I do have I have a big booklet which shows the style and the stuff I want, and this is also what I'm expecting from a showrunner to give me as a director a clear vision and a clear, how you call it, introduction. Ich suche Gebrauchsanweisung. A manual to.
So you mean a Bible?
Yeah, but more like also a whole style guide. Yeah. I mean, because coming from commercials, you know, I mean, we're really saying this is the look of it. This is the camera style. This will be the title sequence, which also is something. But then again, as you guys, I consider myself being a burst director. That meaning I'm there from the beginning of something. I would do Doctor Who under any showrunner.
Yeah, I think we make the manual as a director.
Annetta, when we talked before, it was the idea when you came on board Doctor Who that you sit down with showrunner Chris Chibnall, go through the script in detail, but there again, there was no time for that, right?
No, because I think I got the script just a few days before we started shooting because Chris was behind, because he was writing the whole season. And so there was very little time. But the great thing with Chris is he knows the show. So even though he couldn't give me a full script for me to prep in time, he did give me story and characters and character arcs. And because I already could see from the season what the style of the show is, and anyway, what Doctor Who is, I could then have not kind of tone meetings, but more like, okay, visually I'm thinking of going in this direction. Does that fit with what you're writing? And he would say yes. And so we would have this wonderful kind of dialogue. That was really important. But that doesn't always happen. So Chris is very open in that way and trusted me. So it made it easier for me to have more input, I guess.
And he gave you a playlist, right, to get in the right mood?
Yes, which is great. I love working with music when I'm prepping, and he had a playlist because it was set during, it was the New Year's New Year's Day special, and it's set during New Year's Eve, and so he made a playlist of New Year's Eve party music that fitted the characters. And it just helped me go into his brain, really. And so that was really useful. So that kind of stuff is great. If you've got that with a showrunner, that kind of relationship where you're exchanging creative kind of ideas and they're giving you things that, oh, this is in my head and it's either visual or it's musical or any of those things, that's wonderful as a director because then you can use that to help the vision. But if you don't have that, if you've got a showrunner who's just wanting to say no, like, and you come with stuff, no, that's not what I want. What about this? No, that's not what I want. That's going to be very difficult for a director to work with.
Just you said it helped me to get into his brain.
Yeah.
And that's for me a very difficult one because when I have to be in the brain of someone else, my intuition gets stuck and I'm not functioning as a director. So that would be very hard for me if I would work with a showrunner. Like when I feel I have to be in his brain to make the right decisions, I don't know if I could do that.
I think that's the system of the showrunner that's coming from America. And so I come from theatre where in theatre the play or the writer is like the king or queen. And so for me that's not that difficult because for me it means trying to interpret what it is. It's like having a play and looking at whether it's Shakespeare, whether it's something modern, looking at what is the intention here, and can I take that intention and then visualize it, but with their intention. And so that's what I'm trying to do with a showrunner. Again, particularly with something like Doctor Who, because it's so specific. Mm-hmm. and I'm coming into something that has already been very, very established. So that has to be my point of view. Whereas if I'm coming into something that's new, like I was with the HBO show, then it's different, because then I want to contribute to setting something up, but I was not the lead director on that. So I have to follow what the lead director is setting up. Now, in America, for example, they have directors who only come up. They're called lead directors, and they only come in for one episode and then they leave, which to me, again, I find incredibly weird, because I'm just like, you're setting up something and then you're going, and then the next director has to try and emulate what it is that you're doing. It's just so weird. So there's all these different ways now, which are, for me, they feel very American, because they're not that British from the years I've been working, but now I'm finding more and more that British systems are coming and taking that kind of approach. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think in Belgium it's not like that. For our experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Europe in general, I think we're still very used to the old or general film model where the director is in charge and in the lead. And I'm wondering, with the shows you did, especially the second season of Beau Séjour or Tabula Rasa, which you, Kaat, did with another director, how was everyone who was involved, like you, the director, the broadcaster, the team, being briefed by the showrunner that this is a different model, that this is kind of working differently, that everyone knew who to go to?
But we know that it was just a show who had one season. So that's, we already know, okay, we established something, it's 8 episodes or 10, I don't remember. And it was from the beginning Jonas, because he had like, he's a horror director, he knows a lot about the genre. I came in because I was more like the family stuff, psychology. And then Malin, who wrote it and also the showrunner, she just was there to see if we were on the same level, Jonas and me. So it was very organic, and we worked, the three of us, together as a creative team. With Beau Séjour as well, we know, okay, it's an anthology. The story is 8 episodes and then it stops. So we were from the beginning creating it together with Sanne, Natalie and me. So it was really from the beginning very clear who was in charge and who did what. So there was no discussion, but I can imagine if you do a show like you did, which already exists, it's another story. So, but we created from the beginning with writer/showrunner. So
I think that's why more directors, we were just talking about it earlier, we don't have a directors union per se in Britain like they do in America, the DGA, but we've got what is the Directors UK, and at the moment they are asking us to vote on getting legal representation so that we can have more say, because the system is starting to drown out directors' voices and our ability to have or to contribute with a vision, unless we are lead directors or turn into showrunners, which is now starting to happen as well. So I think it's going to become a problem, because more and more directors feel like their autonomy is being taken away and they're not allowed to express in a way that you're supposed to express as a director, or make creative decisions.
Yeah, in Belgium, many of the directors are as film directors as well. So, as a film director, you're like in charge. You decide what, and they're not going to change if they do a series. They will work the same as they do a film. So, it's a different system, and I don't think they will fit easily in the American showrunner system. But
they don't.
It's not a question in Belgium yet. So,
Lutz, do you work the same? Because you work on things you create, you write, and also on shows you didn't write. Do you work exactly the same when you're directing this or that?
Yeah, but usually if they get me in as a director, they usually want me to be a strong visionary person and to also go into the style of something. Usually the showrunners I work with, they only get when they want some Lutz stuff to it, which I find quite good.
What is some Lutz stuff?
Yeah, well, usually, for example, I'm not very tight to the book. If I improvise a lot with the actors on set, I rewrite on set. So usually they know that it's, if they are not there, I probably do something which is a bit different to.
See, that's interesting because contractually we wouldn't be allowed to do that.
Yeah, that's what contractually.
I mean, that's what I mean. That's what it used to be. We used to be able. We had all of that freedom, and now I had a discussion on set about changing the word "but." And it had to go upstairs to the writer to see if we could change the word "but." I mean, that is just really...
Yeah, but I mean, this approach I understand, and all the writer-innen in the world, I know where it comes from, and sometimes I understand why it is that way. Usually they don't get me to do it then. So that means I have perhaps a special... I mean, look at my shirt. There is enough ego in this.
The funny thing is that they want the best. That's the thing. They will come to you and say, "We want your vision. We want this. We've seen your work. It is amazing, and this is what we want." And so you come in there thinking, "Wow, they want my vision," and then bit by bit, it gets like, "Oh, well, actually, no, we're thinking this. Oh, the showrunner this," and it's becoming such a problem. It's becoming so frustrating. To work like that, I think. So, something's got to change.
Is it possible that you do like a take with your vision and a take with their vision?
Well, that's what you end up doing. So they will say, "I want it this way," and you know it will work better differently. So that's what I usually do.
You can do it on set. You can do your own vision, and then you, as a safety,
secretly,
secretly, and then you use it in the edit.
I then slip it in the edit. Yeah.
But I also...
Then they say, wasn't there a but?
Yes, there was. Yeah, I mean, that's the only way at the moment I would be able to do something on those type of shows.
Okay.
But I think there are the situations with the words like but or just a kind of different meaning. But there are also moments like, and I know of shows like that, where... Because it's a pretty different job, directing on set and a showrunner maybe being on set, not to observe, but to be there of assistance, of help. And I think they have a more like overview because they're not in that very scene, in that very take, and maybe don't get lost in that very take. So maybe it is also a help to have the showrunner there to know, oh, if this but gets changed, or not a but, this will have some consequences for episode 8, and we're in episode 2 now.
Yeah, but I mean, there's just a small thing. To have the showrunner there means you have somebody who overrules you or is able to overrule you end of the day, and to have a writer there who you discuss it with, it's slightly different. To say, hey, I don't want the but, and because blah blah blah, and I also had the situation that the showrunning writer, this word wasn't there, showrunning, not in German context, who was sitting behind me telling me how this works and how they have to announce things, the actors, and that's a very harsh moment for me directing, because I cannot deal with my ego, the ego of the actors, which do have a big ego, and then also have a person behind me telling me also how to do it. Either on set, I am boss, or I cannot do my job. I cannot approach.
I think the actors listen to the director in the shows we did.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, if they talk to the showrunner, then the showrunner said,
no,
well,
really,
fuck
no,
that.
no, yeah.
But do you see an
catering.
advantage of having the showrunner on set? You said just now, yeah, it's good to have a writer there to maybe change some stuff. But do you see the advantage of having the showrunner there?
Yeah, if there's crap in the book, it's very good to send the actor to the showrunner. So for that, I like the showrunner being there. I respect the showrunner, don't get me wrong, but end of the day, if I showrun and somebody else direct, I have to give over the lead for the day. We can discuss. Yeah,
you have to
trust. You
trust.
have to trust, and end of the day, you can discuss why. But if you did not make your, if the way it should be shot was not clarified before the shooting day, it doesn't make sense to do it on set, telling me, or better in the editing room. Why didn't you? I just had that with the Myers, and I adore the showrunner. I really love him, but we had one discussion. Why didn't you shoot it like this? And I said, yeah, because you didn't tell me. So
That's why that it's so important to get in sync before and getting the visions aligned to know where this whole thing should go. Because there is no time during the shoot.
This is something the producer needs to give the room and also the time for the showrunner to really work with the director and not handing in the script and shoot.
Yeah, that's really important, I think.
Yeah.
I also think that again they're two camps in a way, because there's the new show, setting up a new show, and there is coming in as a director onto a running show where everything has already been put in place, because I think they are very two different things. Because if you're coming in as a director where the showrunner has been doing this for a while and we're on the second or third season, that's a very... The showrunner and previous directors have set up a show and have set up a language. And so you're coming in to contribute to that language. You can't come in and then start wanting to change it, because that's not the show. Whereas if you're coming into a new show and the language is being set up, that's when you hope to have a collaboration. So your input into that show is a creative one, and not that you're just being told what to do.
So what would you say in that model where you come in to set the show up, what is the advantage of having a showrunner there? Maybe Natalie.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking.
Or anyone else.
Kaat.
You mean on set or generally?
In general, having a showrunner for the show.
For me, it's when I'm honest, I think myself a better director without a showrunner, because all the responsibility is on my shoulders. But maybe sometimes when it's more comfortable with a showrunner, because I know there is somebody in in the end who has also this responsibility. So, but the last show I did was without a showrunner, and I felt a freedom, and I felt I was more in touch with my intuition, because otherwise I'm always thinking, is it okay for the showrunner, or did I make the right decisions? So it's less free for me, but it can be comfortable as well. But it's really because I did a show who was only one season. I fully agree when I'm in a show where it's the second or third season and there is a total vision. That's an old different story. But I come from the tradition when I also make films, when the director decides like everything, and for a director, of course, it's more comfortable, or you can do more your thing if you're the only one, the only captain on set, because otherwise it's difficult also for the crew. But as I said, with the showrunners I worked, there was so much trust that it was really and maybe they took the show to another level. It's possible. I cannot compare, but. As a director, it feels more free when I'm like the only one who has to decide.
But I think if you are on the second season. Yeah, it's normal. There's a showrunner.
But every show starts with the first season.
Yeah.
But then the showrunner has to be either strong or give away a certain trust to the director, because as you said, I also feel being a better director not having a showrunner, at least a showrunner which really wants my opinion and not being a tool for him, because end of the day I go the extra mile. I stay in editing room for 16, 18 hours if I know that my vision and my they want me there. Yeah. If I only do it for the money, you know, I leave after 10 hours or 8 hours because my job is done, because I know somebody else will take over anyway. And that's it. So I don't give the same energy, because I know that my vision is not it's not respected, and it's not what counts in the end, but somebody else's.
So what does make a great showrunner?
A great showrunner should really
for you as a director.
For me as a director, a good showrunner should know what I bring to the table, and let me do my thing, and giving over to me his vision, so that we both work on the same page.
I would say a good showrunner is someone who knows who is the right director for their show. Because I think, sort of following on what you're saying, Lutz, is that you want to bring a director whose work and style and vision you like, so that they can put that vision on your show. And I think a good showrunner is also a collaborator, that they're expecting to collaborate with their director or directors, and not just tell them what to do.
I have one thing to add. A showrunner is also someone. A good showrunner is also someone you respect for their work. So I must say, if a writer is completely new to the business, but he invented something I should direct, I have a bit of a fear having him that he has the possibility to overrule me. For that, there should be a producer directing that before, or moderating that before we go into show, because this also has something to do with experience, and perhaps the writing is brilliantly, and we say what a great head writer, but end of the day, what makes him a showrunner is also experience. I'd say a first-time writer can, for me, not be a showrunner overruling me. I can't, but he can be a massive great writer and a head writer and a creator, but showrunning the thing, giving it the style at that point, should be given over to the parents.
Yeah, I think
the grown-ups.
I think a good showrunner knows about production, knows about direction, isn't going to say, yeah, you have to do that, and they don't know anything about it. It's not a good showrunner.
Yeah, I think this is why it's important to have writers, and not just when they're showrunners, but before having them being on set and experience how it is being there 18 days, 18 hours a day.
And to understand what it means to shoot something, because it takes time. And what is, if you change one thing, it may take 5 minutes on a page, but how long does that actually take on set? So that's very basic stuff that any writer should know anyway, but a showrunner really needs to know that stuff before they start.
Yeah, and hopefully there will be models in Europe, like in the US, where writers have the chance to experience that. They also fight for it right now in the strike in the US to not lose that, and hopefully we will gain from that as well. So I see the time is running out, and we're closing to the zero. Any final remarks? Really quick, what do you wish for in your next directing gig in the showrunner? One thing.
Could you start, please?
In a show, yeah, it's to collaborate, and it's a good writer, the showrunner too. It's not like if he writes, for example, and then the world breaks out. Yeah.
I don't know. For me, I have to choose the showrunner as well. Maybe they choose me, but I have to choose him or her, because I have to know who it is, if there is trust, if I can work together with this person. So it's like, it has to be an equal collaboration for me.
For me, similar. I want to be able to love their work, but also know that they understand my contribution as a director, and that they have experience being able to see that.
Lutz, under 5 seconds.
Nothing to add, but wanting the showrunner also to be the writer, which is not always the case, not in Cologne, so to say. The producer that calls himself the showrunner and he's not writing a bit. No respect for that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And I have one final thing to say. The recording of this session will be available on showrunners.eu.
This is recorded.
Very shortly. Yeah, it was in your contract. Didn't you read that? And the next edition of the European Showrunner Think Tank will take place on September 23rd in the Netherlands Film Festival in Utrecht. Thank you very much.